Many people wonder which are the main differences between both models and if the P7K will be more than enough. And the answer is yes. But if you want better results in everything, then of course the C6K will be the best choice. I'm comparing these two sizes because in many countries they are offered with similar prices. Hence, many users prefer a larger size of a TV and they want to know how good the P7K will be, or if it's better to get a smaller TV but with better technologies. Well, as you can see, the main difference here is that the C6K has a greater amount of brightness and color volume in every picture mode. Nevertheless, for many users, the amounts of brightness of the P7K might be more than enough, especially if they use the TV in a dim or dark room. The P7K does not support filmmaker mode. The IMAX picture mode is also not supported in this model, while with the C6K you will have access to these two picture modes. The IMAX picture mode will be only available if the content has, for example, HDR10 high dynamic range technology. Another difference applies to content that uses Dolby Vision high dynamic range technology. Both TVs are compatible with this technology, but the C6K has an additional picture mode known as Dolby Vision IQ. In general, all picture modes with Dolby Vision generate greater amounts of brightness compared to the P7K's picture modes, but Dolby Vision IQ means that less brightness is lost in each scene compared to the other picture modes with this technology. And I say this because Dolby Vision works with dynamic metadata that actively modifies the amount of brightness in each scene, always trying to favor the level of detail. But as I said, with Dolby Vision IQ, let's say the content always remains as stable as possible, so there are no annoying changes. In terms of colors, both have the quantum dot color technology applied inside their LCD screens. They both have this dynamic color parameter if you want more vivid results. And the color saturation capacity on both TVs is great, being better of course in the C6K. And the out-of-the-box colors accuracy is outstanding in both models. Both TVs have this automatic HDR conversion parameter so that the content that is in standard dynamic range, when activated, look as if it has high dynamic range, favoring the enhancement of colors, the level of details, and contrast. Also, it's good for you to know that both TVs have the option for dynamic tone mapping parameter in order to enhance the level of details or to enhance the amount of brightness or to obtain a balanced result, that is, with a good amount of brightness and a very decent level of detail. Talking about the dark scenes performance, you need to understand that both TVs have VA panels, or as TCL prefer to call them, HVA panels. But the backlighting technologies in both TVs are different, being better in the C6K because it has a mini LED technology with local dimming feature, while in the P7K is simply a conventional direct LED technology without local dimming. The results are of course much better in the C6K, and is obviously recommended to never set off this local dimming feature in this TV. The amount of clouding is almost unnoticeable and the level of detail is more than okay. And the blooming effect is not annoying. While it's true that the level of detail is better in the P7K, but this is due to the higher amount of clouding effect you will get. But from my point of view, keeping into account the P7K is an entry-level model, the results are more than decent in this area. And in both TVs the results may vary according to every scene, every picture mode, and if the content has some high dynamic range technology or if it's shown in a standard dynamic range. The gray uniformity in both TVs is okay, being better in the C6K because it shows less dirty screen effect. However, when you watch content with higher color volume, I consider that the dirty screen effect in the P7K is not annoying and in the C6K is practically unnoticeable. As for image upscaling, in my opinion is almost the same in both TVs, Let's say it's slightly better on the C6K, but that's due to its higher color volume, and obviously that helps. Just remember what I always say, no 4K TV is going to show you 4K results if the content resolution is low. Don't be fooled by the sellers promising wonders. The viewing angles on both models are not as terrible as a regular TV with a normal VA panel, but they are not as good as one with IPS or ADS panel either. Let's say they are at least acceptable. They are not as good as TCL's website might promise, but as I said, they are at least very decent. Motion handling on both TVs is actually very good. I perceive the results to be almost identical between the two models. Both have the ability to reduce judder and blur manually or automatically. Usually setting this motion clarity too high and activating the dynamic acceleration parameter gives you the best results, and the artifacts you see are not annoying or distracting in my opinion. Speaking of gaming, the most important thing you should know is that the C6K supports 144Hz in 4K and also of course 120Hz in 4K along with variable refresh rate technologies on two of its HDMI ports, while the P7K doesn't support 120Hz or 144Hz in 4K. It does support 120Hz but only up to 1440p and also with variable refresh rate technologies. Another difference, of course, is that the C6K black colors appear deeper in dark scenes due to its mini LED backlighting technology, although the result on the P7K from my point of view is not bad at all. In case you didn't know, on both TVs you must activate the Game Master option to also activate the Game Picture mode and thus obtain the best results in this gaming area. With this, you can also make these game bars appear on the screen. If you need to, you can go to this menu section and change the game bar layout between these three options. You can also access different functions such as improving the level of the shadow in case you require a higher level of detail in some video games. You can also access the function known as zoom, although in this case it's only available in the C6K's game bar. And in both you can make appear this aiming aid on the screen, which you can change its shape, color and even modify its position. And of course the most relevant about these game bars will be these picture modes, which although there are only 3, let's say they are more than enough for the vast majority of users. I consider the performance in terms of input lag times in both TVs to be more than good, and I think any gamer will be satisfied in this area with either of these two models. The overall performance in terms of motion handling, I consider both TVs to be good, but it will obviously be better on the C6K because it has a better refresh rate or higher refresh rate. But from my point of view, the result on the P7K is also very good and probably more than enough for almost anyone, at least those who aren't too demanding in this area. But for those who are more demanding, the C6K is obviously better. I should also add that I personally didn't notice any ghosting effect on the C6K, or at least what I've noticed was very minimal and it was something that appeared very rarely, while on the P7K I did notice it a little more, but I didn't find it alarming or annoying. Of course, the screen heating on both TVs remains within normal temperature ranges, nothing alarming, there is no overheating, which I think is great because it speaks a lot about the lifespan of both TVs. Talking now about the smart area, this will be the remote controls, obviously is the same. They have the same design, the same key placement. I like them a lot, much more compared to last year's remotes. As for the hardware, there are some differences you should be aware of. The amount of RAM is slightly higher on the C6K, the amount of storage space is larger on the C6K, but it's probably enough on the P7K for many people. The C6K's processor is more powerful, but the P7K's processors makes up for it with one more core and a higher clock range speed. And the GPUs, let's say, are fine for both models. The operating system on both TVs is Android TV with Android 12 with the Google TV customization layer. The fluency or smoothness of the operating system is good on both TVs, sometimes it's slightly faster on the C6K, other times on the P7K. In both, you have the option to display, of course, the shortcut menu, and you can change the location of these shortcuts, which I find it really useful. The main difference in favor of the C6K in this smart area is that it has the screencast feature but also the multi-visual function, while the P7K doesn't have this feature. You will only have access to the function known as screencast. Both models have the option for the Google Voice Assistant either by pressing the button of the remote controls or using the hands-free function. Both are compatible with the ambient mode feature, and here you can modify the speed at which the images are displayed, or you can simply do it manually as I'll show you. This function can be quite useful for some people. And of course, the App Store is the same on both models. It's Google Play Store. You can install the apps you can find here, or you can install external files in APK format. As for inputs, the C6K has two USB ports. One of them is 3.0, a LAN cable port for the internet, a digital optical cable port, a port for the antenna cable, and 4 HDMI ports. Two of them support 144Hz and also 120Hz in 4K. The P7K has one less USB port, one less HDMI port, and they support 120Hz but only up to 1440p. Finally, let's talk about the speaker system in both models. Both in theory and in practice, everything is better on the C6K. You will perceive more bass, better clarity and sharpness, and more surround experience. Let's just say that in some conditions, such as small rooms or perhaps some medium-sized ones, you are not going to need a soundbar. On the P7K, on the other hand, performance isn't bad. I also think it's good considering it's an entry-level model TV trying to get close to the mid-range, but in some conditions, a soundbar is required if you want to perceive more bass and a more surround experience. In the end, as usual, I leave you with the comparison of these speaker systems so you can more or less get an idea of how they might perform in real life. Finally, as you may have noticed, although the C6K is better, or in fact much better in some ways, for some people the P7K might be more than enough. For those who aren't fans of high brightness, for those who aren't demanding of performance in dark scenes, for those who may already have a soundbar or who have a small room, the P7K's speaker system may be more than okay, and the fluency of the P7K's operating system is also good. It has Google TV, so if you want a larger or a slightly larger TV at the same price, the P7K might be a very good option to consider. But if you want better quality all around, even if it's a smaller size, go ahead and go for the C6K. Or if you can get a larger size of the C6K, even better. Without further to add, please let me know at the comment section down below what you thought about this comparison, which one of these TVs will you buy and why. And I remind you guys, you can support my channel by making some purchases throughout the referral links I leave in the description and in the first comment. Also, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and until next time.
The swarm brought ruin into our world. We are bound by the color. For we are bound by the color. The sacred union of our every thought